Hi, mindful partners, and welcome to Mindfully with Tunmise, the podcast. So, you know that I said last week that we're going to get back to collecting stories. And this particular story I'm going to collect today, I'm sure you've met him online, and I'm sure a lot of young men and women really have interacted with him. But you know why this is so full circle for me? It's so full circle for me because the first photo shoot that I did for Black Images back in 2009 on Wemco Road. That's Wemco Road or Acme, on Acme. Right. What he did was he actually rented a place and then we went to take a photo shoot there. And then there was a particular picture. Maybe I'll add it to this episode or not, or when I'm promoting this episode. There was a particular picture that he took. I had my head wrapped in Oludimeta. That is the Ondo headgear. We call it Oludimeta and it's gilly. And I had my black adire kind of cloth wrapped around my head and I had the smile. And then he framed it. And that was his gift for me. And he wrote, I'm black by divine design. All right. Of course, he knew that it was Black Images. And I was like, okay, so why did you frame this? And he said, someday when you have an office for Black Images, you then will put this in your office. And voila, he's here today. And I have a picture with me. And I've been wanting to collect the story. Seun Akisanmi, how are you? No, you can't say you're wonderful. You have to tell me exactly. Because on Mindfully to me, how are you? If you're wonderful, tell me why you're wonderful.
Okay, well, I'm very tired.
Why? What happened?
I feel like
All right. Like I said, Seun Akisanmi is in the studio, and he says he's weary and tired. Why are you weary and tired?
okay, like I said earlier, I'm going through what we'll call the modern day valley of the shadow of death, and apparently, for many men going through it, we are also, culturally speaking, not allowed to talk. In quotes, just go through it. And I remember talking to my dad some weeks ago, this month, and just sharing. I mean, most men will not talk to their dad. And even my dad was like, "She'll be a man." And I had to almost shout at my dad. I said, "What does it mean to be a man? I'm telling you, I'm tired. You are telling me to be a man. Is it because I haven't told you, But, I'm encouraged by Apostle Paul, knowing that a lot of what he went through, a lot of the writings he did was while he was in prison, actually. And that's why you notice I resumed my writing July 1st. So regardless of what one is going through, just keep doing at least whatever you feel you are called to do, knowing that you are not likely going to have a perfect scenario life anyways. But it's interesting nonetheless.
When you say interesting, what does interesting mean in this? Because personally, I say that I believe that men are not given the permission to feel, like you just fulfilled that prophecy for me now by saying So when you say interesting, what does interesting mean?
For me, interesting means that since I resumed my writing from January till end of June, I didn't write because of what I was going through. And since I resumed, I realized even before I resumed the writing, a lot of people that were going through similar challenges that didn't know what I was going through were being, quote, led to me for counsel, for guidance. And my writing reaches, on WhatsApp alone, I have over 5,000 contacts. That's just WhatsApp contact. The Facebook is there. So the span that my writing reaches, and I'm surprised that other people are like, Mr. Seun, thanks so much. You blessed me with this writing. You encouraged me to go on. So I'm like, wow. So despite through this, shege, I'm still being a blessing. This is interesting. I'm gonna keep, going on. And I was inspired really by Apostle Paul. Just one day, it just occurred to me that almost all the letters this guy wrote was while he was in prison. The average person will be praying, God, let me be free, and then I'll write letters. This guy kept, writing in. So while resuming the writing, the testimonies that kept coming in was actually soothing and encouraging to me. So that's what I meant by interesting.
So when you say soothing and encouraging, did that help to navigate the valley of the shadow of death?
It helped tremendously. And I think for me, I'm also getting to that point where I personally don't know how to pray that type of prayer that, God, let me live a life without challenges. Because it's as if I've been having one challenge or the other since I can remember. I remember the first challenge I had. I was 1 year, 16 months old. They just gave birth to my junior sister, and they just put an earring hole in her hair and they put rope to hold it. And out of curiosity, I went there and pulled the rope and blood everywhere. And the way my mommy beats me.
Oh, wow.
I remember that, So from there till now,
of course you remember.
I have a vivid memory. And so I just realized, look, if you think about it, most great people in the Bible, how many of them had a perfectly serene, life anyway? So, Seun, this is, your life. Just pray for grace to go through whatever you're going through and keep, being at least a blessing.
All right. So this would take me to Seun. You remember the day that I think this was in January when I said Seun from praising to photography and then to Agbegilodo. That's what I said, Yeah. So let's talk about that journey. I think what for those who do not know, Seun Akisanmi he's written a lot of books. I think there's one about the diary of an entrepreneur or something.
Tears of a hungry Nigerian
entrepreneur. Tears of a Nigerian. Jesus, why did you? We'll talk about that in a moment. But of course, the first book I'm reading, apart from your articles on socials, is From Praising to Photography. I've not finished it, and that's because I'll tell you why I've not finished it, because I take notes tonight. And so I'm writing, I'm reading, I see something, and then I take a break and do some writing on my own. So, From Praising to Photography, one of the stories that hit me, and this is because I think that a lot of us, or a lot of identity crisis that we have as Nigerians, is because we think that we're the only ones who are capable of being 419.
Yeah.
Can you tell us the story about how Michael Jackson duped you?
Okay, so I'll probably have a quick back, story to when I was in GSS 1. I remember my entrepreneurship adventure started then. I would steal my dad's pen, and then go to school and sell it to... My favorite customer was one guy called Ekene Dilichuku. The transport?
Yeah.
It was him. The dad named the transport in the name of his son.
Okay.
So he was buying my pen for what? 1 naira, sometimes 2 naira. And I was like, wow, this is business. So that was when, I discovered that I had, entrepreneurship skills in me. And then fast forward to when I got to university, started a company. Although they sent me to America to, study. I was studying accounting, but then I got there and realized that I'm someone that whenever I see problems around, I see opportunities. Opportunities to make money. So mention any problem that we are going through in Nigeria. And for me, I see more of an opportunity than a problem. So I saw an opportunity and then started a company. My first company was textbooksforless.com. Partnered with 3 companies, Amazon.com, Yahoo, and eBay. And, Jeff Bezos was an inspiration. I wanted to be like him. He actually started selling books. I started my book too, selling books. And in an attempt to grow and sell beyond books, wanted to start selling electronics. So I, went on Yahoo, searched. I saw this guy selling gadgets. It's the equivalent of what you call iPhone 15. This version of iPhone just came out. They call it Palm 4 then. And I bought a dozen from him. And then that was 2000. In America, online banking was, common then. It took a while to get to Nigeria. And by the time I clicked, send for payment, it was not up to 10 seconds. Someone, because you could monitor and see people bidding for other people's stuff. Someone sent me a message and was like, I hope you're not, paying for that guy is whatever because he's a fraud.
Whoa.
And then it dawned on me, I think I've entered, one chance. And I realized that eventually this guy was actually a scam artist, that was, putting up fake, auctions online. And I had paid for 12 that I had collected the money from my eBay account from 12 other people at a much higher fee and just, just trying to, make ends meet. And then I realized that, this 419 thing perhaps didn't, start with Nigerians because, and I also realized, of course, Michael Jackson is just not the name of one artist. Because that was the first I now searched Michael Jackson. Yahoo search was common, then came up with the result of there are over 10,000 people in America with the name Michael Jackson. And that's how my journey to prison eventually began, because those that paid for it, they were like, Seun, where's my money? And then I was procrastinating paying them back. They reported me to the police. And the thing with police in America is once you are reported, unless you die or maybe a significant number of years goes by and it's not a serious crime, they won't forget you. So eventually it took them 9 months because America is big, to eventually get to my school, because I registered my account on eBay with my school email, akisanmi@siu.edu. So they knew that this guy must be a student of Southern. Yeah. So eventually they got to my school, arrested me, and that's how I began my 6-month journey in 4 American prisons. And it was an adventurous journey, I'll say.
Okay, so maybe because I'm a writer, it reads more interesting than you've told it. Because I read it and I literally I could see, when I was reading, I could see your face and the shock of, oh, Michael Jackson is just not one person. Oh, it's not, and what was going through your mind when you were eventually picked up?
The first thing was, wow, I'm a failure, because I'm the first of 5 children. In fact, in my generation of Akisanmi, I'm literally the first that will be sent abroad for university education abroad. And I remember the first major thing I had done about maybe almost a decade earlier was attempt suicide. I felt, the way my parents, were dealing with me, I felt, no, I must be adopted. I don't think I'm their child, because the way they hate me, they were disciplining me. I just felt hated. Went to one pharmacy, took some drugs, swallowed it and woke up paralyzed in a hospital. So, coming back from there, seeing that my parents really loved me, I was, in the words of Kanunwa, called determined to make these parents proud of me.
All right, you guys, he doesn't look like he sounds, trust me, but he's a clown. Go ahead, yeah.
So I was always trying to do my best. In fact, starting the business, I remember sending my dad a message that, Dad, don't worry about paying my school fees again. I'm already making money. And I felt I was helping, him, not realizing that whatever you are venturing into that you've not done before, getting a mentor will help you avoid a lot of pitfalls. I learned the hard way that the fact that I was making money doesn't mean that I was on the right path. So by the time they picked me up, that hit me hard. That, man, I have failed my family, not just my family, my generation, yet again. And that was the 3rd time I just felt, I just feel like killing myself, because the shame that, I felt to be on my parents, I felt that would be so unbearable, because I've showed them too much shege. So that shame, disappointment of being a failure was the first thing that dawned on me. And first few weeks in prison was quite depressing, but eventually maybe I started getting used to it and quote having fun.
What fun could there be in prison though?
For me, it's fun when you get to prison and meet people and hear stories of people that have done worse things than you. I'm in a room. I remember one of my room cellmates, Jamal. This guy pulled up his shirt and I saw bullet holes that he had healed from. I was like, it was a gang,
and you were like,
I
yeah,
was like,
sure.
thank God I didn't shoot anyone. Truth is, whoever you meet in prison, in most cases, they are in a state of humility. Whether you say whether R. Kelly or all these names, when they get to prison, or Obasanjo, when they are in prison, they are not forming that, you know who I am, even though I met one guy that was on the phone threatening and now said, if I come down, I'm going to smoke you. In my head, I was like, guy on the other end, why don't you believe this guy? Calm down. But most people in prison are actually, quote, humble and in a sorry state. So meeting them and hearing stories of what they've done, almost all of them, in fact, at one of the prisons, I was considered a hero. They were like, wow, Seun, you commit, they call it financial fraud. That's some brains you got there, man. Because some of them were there because they killed someone. I met one 65-year-old man that was there. He had been released. He was there because he killed his 2 granddaughters. Drunk. He was drunk and driving and he had an accident. So by the time you meet people that have committed more serious crimes than you, you'll be like, God, thank you. It's just $5,000 that I defrauded people. I didn't kill someone. No. So that's where the fun just started from. And the food was good too.
Show food.
Wow. One of the prisons, I can't forget, between lunch and dinner, they served us cookies. Prison-made, fresh baked chocolate chip cookies. And they were so good that we were trading with it. So maybe for some people, I'll be okay, I'll help you do this if you give me your cookies. Some will say, okay, I'll give you my cookies, you give me cigarettes. So, so it was an adventure for me, really.
You guys should see his face. You guys should see his face. Okay, don't worry, very soon, Mindfully With Tunmise is going to go visual. You stop missing the expressions of these guys. All right, so my question though is, of course, you have to read the book. I'm focusing on the prison to photography because there's a lot of in betweens in the personal challenges and sexual challenges and all of that. But I sincerely don't want to dwell on that. So forgive me if I don't ask any question around that. But I want to. Because now, when we started this conversation, you spoke as if you and your dad are now like great, like you are now great friends. But I want to tie that. How did your journey through 4 prisons in America affect or impact or influence your relationship with your parents, especially your dad?
Wow, it was a very, very tough one. I remember I started my writing career while in prison. One of my cellmates then, his name was Donald Starr. So he wrote the story of his life in 2 paragraphs, A4. And when I read it, I think that was one of the first time I remember crying because I read someone's
story.
Writing. So I started writing while in prison, and a lot of my writings then were more like what Job was writing. Woe unto the day that I was born. I wish, I'd never, was born, blah, blah, blah. And I remember while in prison, I eventually found out that my dad had the equivalent of a heart attack and, was hospitalized when he heard of the news. So for me, that shame grew, it was more like a volatile whatever. So I was just ashamed. And I remember by the time I got back, arriving at the Muritala Mohammed Airport, many times we read the Bible and not many people can feel what a lot of the characters go through. I experienced what that prodigal son went through. It was me that was the prodigal son. My dad was the one that was like, the only thing my dad didn't do was like, go and kill the fattest calf. They didn't throw a party, but I could still remember, him welcoming me with a hug. He had some connections. He had left word, with someone that said, look, my son is coming. Thank God what I did wasn't a crime, at least in Nigeria. So he welcomed me, and then I remember we had a meeting a few days after their welcome. He had read all what I wrote. It was like, so I read all this suicide thing that you wrote, and he told me, he had one of the toughest conversations I probably had with him. It was like, you say you want to kill yourself. If you kill yourself, last, maybe your mom will spend 1 year to mourn. Me, maybe 6 months. We will all move on. Now that you've done this, well, you better gather yourself together and, and find a way to rebuild. All I know is I will not send you again to abroad. So you better find a way to, so it was as if I was sent back to ground zero, trying to please my parents, especially
I
my
was going
dad.
to I was going to say that. So,
And
what did that do to you? Coming from a place where of pain and shame, okay, you met love, so to speak, and now from the story you told about your sister and all that, so there was this, I want to please my parents thing, and now I have failed them using the words, and now, but they're showing me love. What did that do to your psyche?
I think for me, even till today, I still have somewhere at the back of my mind that I've not fully repaid the depth of the shege I showed them during, going to prison. Because even as at 3 weeks ago, my dad was like, Seun, when you're going through this stuff, talk to me, tell me. And in my head, I'm like, you have done enough. So it was, I think most of us can't handle that level of love. Maybe because we didn't grow up with it. And that's why maybe a lot of us find it difficult to imagine a heavenly Father that loves us unconditionally. So unconditionally that I believe if Judas had asked for repentance,
I'm with you.
He would have, God would be
I'm
like,
with
okay,
you.
no problem.
It was a prophecy. You had to do it on behalf of everybody. But you should have,
It was a tough one because, and then sometimes my parents, too, being human, once in a while there will be a way they could subtly remind me of, remember what you did, and it's as if that will shatter me once again. So it was a tough journey, and many times in trying to please them, I think many times I went too far. Sometimes I would be comparing myself with my other siblings. In fact, I stopped comparing just 2-3 years ago when I realized, look, Seun, you are the only entrepreneur in this entire family. All your siblings, they are employees, whatever. So a lot of what you do won't probably make sense. If you are starting a business, they are not risk advised. They are likely to look, just keep it safe. So a lot of what you do may not make. So don't compare yourself. And I'm finally realizing that, Seun, no, this is you. But growing up then, even after the prison saga, it was a lot on me trying to please them. And I think one prayer that helped me, I of course started businesses again. One thing I pray to God, I'm this entrepreneur. I need you to help me by sending me the right mentors. And what God did for me then was send mentors through the church I attend. This was the main church I attended. I joined when I got back from America, and for me it was the only church that was teaching and raising entrepreneurs. And so that was a good guide for me, and it really helped me a lot. I'm still there now anyway.
Okay, good. So for those who don't know, he had to subtly share, like, you just asked me, are you saying this? That's what you just asked. No, I'm not a star. I worship at Lighthouse now. So I have a question though, because I'm working with you as you tell the story. I've walked at least half of this book event, but I'm working with you as you tell the story now. And I'm asking myself, how did you navigate, knowing that you were not raised to be an entrepreneur? You didn't have a father as a model to be an entrepreneur, and like you said, you are the first entrepreneur in the Akisanmi lineage. How do you think it should have been different if you had someone speaking to your life? Oh, Seun can write. Oh, Seun is always, and they fed that as against wanting you to follow in the family business, which is accounting.
I think if I'm to look back now, the singular most impactful influence that was encouraging for my entrepreneurial journey was me attending this organization that was led by Sam Adeyemi, because I remember those years. There was this service they called the entrepreneur
Entrepreneur
service.
service, first
I was
service.
attending. In fact, I have a Jeep that still has this cassette player. I have a lot of those tapes, and there was a way that his spirit of confidence, his spirit of wisdom was transferred just listening to him, because right after being deported, the first major confrontation, you would think after that type of scenario, everything your parents say, you'll be saying, yes, ma, yes, sir, because you've disappointed them. And then my dad calls me, after 1 or 2 years, so, back in the early 2000s, hopefully, maybe now, I don't know. Your parents don't ask you what you want to be when you grow up. They tell you what you are going to be. So my dad called me for a meeting, and I was like, so tomorrow you are going to go to Yaba, and there's this ICANN office. You are going to go and collect ICANN form, because when you're an accountant, ICANN is the next thing. And that's the first time in my entire life I could remember telling my dad, no, that I'm not doing accounting. I was studying accounting to try to be like you, to try to please you. But I think I've found something that will bring, me fulfillment, and it's photography. And right on the rocking chair, I could picture my dad almost falling from the chair because, it was like photo kini. And I wouldn't have been able to have that confidence to say that, to tell my father that I'm trying to please. No, I'm not doing what you want me to do. Because is there no a part in the Bible that says, children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Honor your father. So, but if not for that spirit of confidence from Samadhi, and I knew this was the right thing. I mean, I thought age will I, stop doing what people wanted me to do.
Yeah, because you were in your mid-20s at this point?
Yeah. So if not for the influence of Samadhi, I told my dad no. And there was no solid, the only example I had then of a successful photographer was one guy called Kelechi Amadiobi.
Okay.
I've not even met him. I just saw his work, and in my head and in my life, all I need is one example of success. For example, right now, I have a dream to visit the International Space Station as a photographer. And it's because at least I've seen one person that's done it. I have a dream maybe next year to visit a safari desert, somewhere in Africa where you can play with lions. It's because a friend of mine.
$2,000 to do so, though.
Yeah, so I'm saving up for it because I have a friend that has done it.
Okay.
So I have Kelechi Amadiobi that has, proved themselves as a successful photographer. And I'm telling Daddy, this is what I want to be in. So the single most important influence on my life was having Samadhi Emi as that man has done.
Let's share a bit of story. Let's share a bit of story. Let's a common sharing. Of course, that entrepreneur. I never thought I was going to. I don't even know what I'm an entrepreneur as of now. But it's as you said. I particularly didn't have. Maybe some people had. Okay, this is what you're going to do. Nobody asked me what I wanted to be or told me what to do. All right, so I literally, and that's why I asked that question. I literally grew up by myself and found myself. And of course, when I got to Daystar back into 1999, and but I think entrepreneurial classes started around the 2001 and all that. But here's the story. What that did for me is that, just like you, it gave me some level of confidence to find myself and be myself. And I think in anyone who's been under Samadhi would say that the thing that comes out with it is the quiet resilience that comes with knowing and just being who you are and fighting for that. I asked this question. The reason I asked that question now is, I knew, of course, you have to have pushed back for you to have gone into photography. So when you got that pushback, working with the fact, that same scripture that you just spoke now, honor your father and mother, and you just pushed back. Did it at any point affect your journey as a photographer when knowing that your father was not 100% behind you as a photographer? Did it affect you in any way as you journeyed as a business person?
So I've had quite a number of people, come up to me with questions like this, saying what I really want to do. I'm not getting support from my family member. And almost all the time I tell them, give them 6 months to 2 years to prove them, wrong. And sometimes that 6 months to 2 years is easier when you are not depending on them. It's easier when you are not living in their house, because if you are living in their house, they are still the one feeding you. It can be difficult,
Yeah.
So for me, I think my dad had gotten to the point where he realized, wait, up until this guy is 20 something, a lot of what I've told him to do, he still does his mind. So he said he wants to do photography, let him, And my dad watched me start my photography career by following the message Seun Akisanmi preached one day. Seun Akisanmi said, so what is that thing that you have? So Moses, God asked him, what is in your hand? So Moses said, it's only a staff. And I literally looked at my hand and saw a Nokia 7200 camera phone. The megapixel then, I have a Samsung phone now. This is a 50 megapixel phone. The megapixel of that Nokia phone was 0.3. It was not even up to 1 megapixel. And Seun Akisanmi is saying, start with what you have. I started with my phone, and every singles event, I'll go out, document it, send the pictures to print lab abroad, print it. And my dad watched me for almost 6 months. And the next meeting he'll call me for, of course, I was afraid. I was like, so how much is that professional camera that you said, you need again? Okay, tell your sister to buy it for you. I think what he noticed was this guy is bent on following this decision he has made. And he looked at the results. I was not, waiting for him to even support me.
Yeah.
And he saw that regardless of whether I came on board or not, I was still working to achieve this. And somewhere in his head, he must have thought, this guy must be stubborn the way me too I was stubborn when I was young. Anyway, let me quickly support him so that I'll be part of his success story. And he bought me my first professional camera and $800 then. It's even now, still a lot of money.
Still a lot of money.
Impulse camera, and then so after 6 months of him saying that, look, whether or not he was on board, I was, going to do what I felt I wanted. And with that, he has seen how I've grown over the years, up to the point that one of the first major arguments my dad will have with me was when I was going out with him. He was in Abuja then. Was like, we're going to visit one of his friends in a club. He was like, Seun, how can you come with me and don't have your business card? How will I now be able to introduce my photographer, son to all my friends? What do you mean you don't have, And I was like, see this man, a few years earlier. And it was not up to 5 years old, So I tell people, just give those family members 6 months to 2 years of you doing consistently. And then in some cases, by the time maybe the first income start coming in, randomly just say, mommy, take this 50,000, use it to buy anything. It's the money I got from this comedy skit. Yeah. That they just paid me this 200K. Just use it to buy sweet, anything. You see how they respect. Before you know it, they'll be like, so, when next are we having that comedy shoot or that photography, So that's what, happened, with me, really.
So how is that journey been, considering that you are a deep feeler? Considering, even if I didn't know you personally, I've read your work, I've read articles online, and they come from this place of almost like a threshing floor, like David would write from. So how is that been generally? Does the story of the American prison story and you coming back to Nigeria and all of that, does it in any way impede the way you connect with yourself and your photography?
I think one major thing that I've learned from my journey is how I've felt so much, regret and shame from a lot of the mistakes I've done over the years, that there's this, strong admonition in me to put as much of it in writing as possible so that people will not repeat that same, mistakes. And sometimes some of the stories is difficult to write. For example, one of my forthcoming books, maybe it will be out hopefully before 2025, 2026. I started from a photographer's journey into woodworking. And it's detailing a lot of what happened that, got me into woodworking. And it's deep emotional stuff that most Nigerians will be like, why you are not an American? Why are you sharing, all that? Even I remember one of my rich aunties was like, Seun, how can you write a book from prison to photography? Let bygones be bygones. In fact, I think you should change the title of that book to something like How God Has Led Me Thus Far. I was just laughing in Yoruba when she said, I was like, ooh, we'll buy that. Even she, when this book came out, she didn't buy 2 copies. It's only 1 copy at the mid. I was thinking maybe she would just give me money for 20 copies. So, yeah, I want to sell because it's an intriguing story. So, for me, that, weight of ensuring that many people don't repeat the same mistakes I've done is a continuous weight. And sometimes, it leads me even into depressive, moments. Sometimes one of my favorite characters in the Bible, apart from Job and Jeremiah, is David, because a lot of what he wrote was when he was in his down moments. And so I feel, because of the weight of ensuring that not as, and sometimes I may not be able to win a lot of people, but the few people that at least read it, hopefully they will learn from my mistakes and not repeat it. That has been what has, kept me going. And sometimes it's painful to write. The write-up that I told you earlier that I was going to write, Why Do Men Keep Quiet? It's an emotional one for me because I, mention a little about what I've been going through in recent times and mention how I eventually talked to, I called like 7 men that, look, I want to ask for help. Even if you are not going to help me, I just want it to be on record that I talk to you guys. And it's not for you to advise me, because most of them don't know what, you can't tell me, I know what it's like. You don't know what it's like. How can you tell Daniel, I know what it's like being in a lion's den? You've not been to it, so it's been an emotional roller coaster, especially when you end it up with, even as recently, my dad, me confiding in him and he's telling me, put yourself together, be a man. I shouted, what does it mean? You've not gone through what I'm going through, so don't tell me to be a man.
I know, right? Okay, so I know I have an idea what you're saying. Like, not that I know what you're going through. That's not what I meant. Okay, so because I remember when, one of the feedback I got from living mindfully was that I didn't share. I didn't share the depth of the things that brought me to living mindfully. Of course, I just tell stories, and I was very euphemistic about what happened at 6, how my parents responded, and all of that. And I think just like you is because, just like you said, somebody said, are you an American? Why are you telling the story like this? And yeah, I think we live in a culture of shame and guilt. Shame and guilt. It's not just shame. We live in a culture of shame and guilt. And when I remember my husband saying, when we started promoting living mindfully and we're writing on the fact that I live with bipolar affective disorder and all that. And then my husband said he would get to work and his friends, when they see me on TV, like, but we know your wife now. She conducts. We know your wife. She talks on radio. But how did you guys And then he's becomes a sort of a connoisseur of depression and all that because he saw me go through it. One day we're going to talk. Hopefully, if he can get away from his mic shyness, we'll sit down here and I'll sit him down. And I don't know why we don't talk. And before we started this conversation, I was saying that my concern really is that we don't give men permission to feel. And indeed, all of us, we even I think 2 episodes ago, I was saying that we were raised to celebrate common pain and uncommon joy. And that really somehow, I believe, impacts on how we relate with ourselves and the people around us. So now that you are an Agbegiludo, I don't want you to tell the story before you tell the story, but are you still in photography?
Yes, but not. So I decided photography now is an industry that I don't want to use the word saturated, because most of what people know for photography is events, portrait sessions, and I'm the type that I've placed a value on what I feel I can deliver when it comes to maybe events. And if somebody is calling me for maybe an event coverage, to be honest with you, I feel my worth is nothing less than 3 million for a day's coverage. But because we've trained so many people over the years, I've been, instrumental in training over 3,000 people. There's one younger guy that will cover that same event for 300,000 naira.
I get you.
And will do a finer job than even me. So I won't blame someone for using, so I'm continuously, navigating how I can still stand out. And recently I just concluded I'm good at teaching. So I'm focusing on releasing books on maybe photography. Thank God it's been approved. It's approved by WAEC now. Photography can be learnt in secondary schools.
Oh, nice.
So,
nice.
Not many textbooks are available. So it's still a fertile ground. And the people that make the most money in the educational system are the authors that produce the books.
Yeah, true.
The reason why Chimamanda, blew so much is because her books is an approved WAEC, curriculum in literature. So that is a bigger whatever. So for me, I decided teaching is it for me. And then another, aspect of photography that I stand out is what we call 360-degree photography. I'm one of the less than a dozen people that can do it in Nigeria that take what we call virtual tours. This room, for example, I could take like 8 pictures of this room and stitch it together, and someone could view everything here, and it will almost be like, they were here. So those, we are targeting people that have hotels, real estate, schools. Those are more of my clients as compared to the average wedding or events, because how much does an event person want to pay you for covering, a wedding, when they know they could get 100 other people that in some cases will, like the last, wedding, major celebrity wedding, there are some photographers that will pay the celebrant, let me pay you to cover your event, so I'm more of a 360-degree photographer wedding and more of a teacher, and trying to put all my trainings in books.
All right. I promised I was not going to keep you long. So there are two questions I want to ask now. The first is, do you think you're still hungry to be?
I don't think so. I actually know so. And that realization dawned on me when I celebrated my 45th birthday last year. A few people, gathered and planned a surprise birthday party. I'm not used to celebrating myself, even till today. You won't see any trace of the pictures and videos online. I didn't even put it up that it's my birthday, like many people will come online and be like, I just want to give God the glory. It's my birthday. And I'm thinking, why didn't you give God the glory in your room? But I'm weird like that. So for me, I came to that realization that, wow, there's still so much, to achieve, especially hearing they invited my dad to that surprise birthday. And my dad said things that I've never heard him say. He was like, Ashim, I didn't even know you are this influential. And it was, I didn't know you've impacted these many lives in the photography industry. All I just knew was that this guy, when he sets his mind to do something, and it was just inspirational for me. And I remember making a resolution that, God, I no longer want to die at 83 years old. Let's extend it by 12 years extra, because there's still so much books to write and so much, knowledge to share with people and so much books to read. And then I was like, no, I can still live till 90 something years. And that's why I'm now more conscious about my health. I don't, take anything. I know it may seem fanatical sometimes, but most people that end up in hospital is because of they are not conscious. I've been to a hospital where someone came for diabetes treatment, and right after he's leaving the hospital, he's buying Coca-Cola. I said, I'm just so thirsty. I'm like, you are still drinking. So for me, there's still so much to live for.
Okay. So what would you tell Seun at 20?
What would I tell Seun at 20? I would tell him to read as many books as possible on any venture that is about to get into. From relationships, I mean, you think you know a lady, or you think you even know yourself. You feel, I've met someone that he came to me to encourage me, and eventually I was counseling him. A married man whose wife was beating him. And I was like, you need to go and report. He was like, no, Seun, I know myself. I can never, lay my hands on her. I said, this woman just hit you on the chest just a few days. So I said, there are many people that said that statement, and they are in Kirikiri prison now. And that's why I stopped my prison visitations, because it was so emotional. Meeting all these people that were like, I never knew I can beat a woman. It was just one beating, and my wife died. So I would tell him, read as many books, because I would have said, attend as many workshops, but you may not have opportunities for even workshops. So read as many books on any venture. If you feel, I want to japa, read whether books or as much posts on the advantages and disadvantages of japa. Don't just do it because everybody is doing it. I want to be like Dangote. Read as many books that shows I was privileged to meet someone that is close to Dangote. It was like any business venture that Dangote is going into. He presents his bank 3 business plans. One is the best case scenario. The second is the worst case scenario. And the third case is the normal case scenario. And even the worst case scenario, he still makes money. So read as many, because a lot of the mistakes we make is because we assume that, no, my own is different. Everybody is going, in this direction, and they are coming back, maimed. You feel, no, if I go there, what if you read and find out what broke your hand? Okay, let me, be prepared so that I think that would have helped me avoid so many of the mistakes that I ventured into, and many of the life mistakes that I got into. If you ask me, many of it had nothing to do with devil. So just because we are from a part of the world where small things, they'll say, it's because you are the firstborn. I
really wanted to run away from that. To be honest, I had that question in my head, like, did you ever think it was a firstborn thing? But since you've gone there, because I'm also a first child, so I understand exactly what you're saying, because I can imagine people around you saying, the first child of Mr. Akisanmi, see how it has turned out, and then your younger ones, and so I didn't want to go. I didn't want to go there. So what would you say to someone who's made, and I think hopefully this is the last question, who's made the same mistakes that you believe you've made? Because personally, I don't call them mistakes. They're just life's posters, and you're living transitions. What's the word now? The capacity of your hunger was not guided. The capacity, if you had, that's why I asked the question about modeling. If I had some things I had done in my life, if I had a relationship with my parents, if I had not been shut down when I was younger, and in fact, my mother said it towards the end of her life, and said, if I had embraced you early, both of us would be better for it. She said this, and unfortunately a week later she died. Wow. But I believe that strongly, that it all boils down to parenting. If we're not saying this is what you should do, as against looking at the manual, taking time to look at the manual, spiritual manual the children brought in, and it can help them. So if you were going to speak to someone who believes they're in the middle of mistakes, what would you say to them?
The single, most important advice, and this just popped up to me. And it's interesting that all these questions, it's not as if you shared it with me before or whatever. So I feel God is also directing us. I feel the single most important advice that I would say is be deliberate and intentional about making friends with people that are at least 2 decades older than you and are wise. Someone can be 20 years older than you and they are foolish. And most of the time, when you hear wisdom speak, most of the time, it doesn't agree with what you believe. For example, if you see a child that is, sees a candle with fire burning, he wants to touch it, and the mom is like, don't touch that fire. The child may feel, mommy doesn't love me. A mom is telling the daughter, don't have sex before marriage. The daughter is feeling. So, in fact, when you have people supporting you all the time with what you want to do, there's a good chance that you're about to err. And most of the time, there are people that are your age, mates. So I find it significantly important to deliberately make friends with people that ideally it could probably end up being just one person that you could find that are 20 years older than you, and that you could, when you are sitting under wisdom, you will know that this is wisdom. And in most cases you may actually not be able to meet them one-on-one. That is why we have social media. I have one of my mentors in woodworking now. I have 2, 3. One is a almost 70-year-old man. He's an American. Another is probably over 70. He's based in China. Another guy is in Iran. So they are all over the world, and I'm learning from them. And sometimes they share a 90-second video that, how the process of how they made the table, that by the time I'm making the same table and my colleagues are seeing me, someone still sent me a message this morning. Mr. Seun, he's been in the woodworking industry before I got there. It was like, what type of polish did you use in, that wood? And I'm like, maybe I just started. But because I'm learning from the wisdom of these older people, so I tell people, be intentional about making friends with people that are 2 decades older than you and wiser. And don't be too quick to listen to advice from your fellow colleagues.
Don't be too quick to listen to advice from your fellow colleagues. I said I was not going to keep you long, but we've spoken for 52 minutes.
I'm enjoying it.
I know. Yes, I said, let's just talk. So, finally, as a parent, what would you be saying to a man if we're going to advise a parent right now from your stories and what would you be advising? Or what would you be saying?
Okay, I'll first tell them to question everything. In the sense that, okay, who told you the ideal life is, okay, your son finished secondary school, he now goes to 4 years, university. After university, he now, graduates and is now looking for a job. Who says that the real education couldn't have started from when he was in maybe primary 1? And by the time he's even finishing secondary school, there's a guy I know that the guy is 22. He has avoided university for a while, and the dad was like, I know, Seun, I've made him do jam. And this guy spent 2 weeks working with me, and I'm telling the dad, this guy is not built for 4 years university. If he starts that 4 years, and I'm saying it on air now, he probably won't if he graduates, he will graduate as an unfulfilled man, because this guy is an entrepreneur to the core. The best you can do is find maybe a 1 year or 18 months, school that, yeah. So realize, question who says that he must have a PhD. One time my mom would say, that thing which I didn't do, you will have a PhD in Jesus' name. I'm not an academic person. I've never, in fact, since primary 1, I've been failing since the foundation of the world, carrying the whole, class. I can read the textbook and will fail the exam in the exam class, but in real life, I'll pass. So question everything and give your child a customized template. If you see your child, everyone is saying, this guy is quick to destroy every electronics in the home. Maybe he's an engineer. You understand? To you, you are seeing the bad way that is destroying. Study it and look at it from a different spot. He's talking, sometimes people tell me, Mr. Chan, am I talking too much? I said too much. You are talking a lot. It doesn't mean it's too much. So it could be along your passion. Maybe you are the next Aman Paul or whatever. So if you are talking a lot, I'll know that this guy may be a good lawyer or a good, broadcaster. So question everything and have an open mind to have a customized template for that your child. If you are now comparing your child, like, one time my parents did, comparing me, the second born, the one after me, is the most, intelligent when it comes to academics. In fact, at one point in secondary school, she went from first to third. And I went from maybe 42nd position to 35. And my true life story. And my dad scolded her. I was like, why can't you be like your brother that improved? And I see this funny dad. Meanwhile, till today, my dad didn't know that particular term was the term that I copied the most. I dubbed, they were comparing us. Meanwhile, they didn't know that I plagiarized, first class plagiarism. So if you realize that every child is different. If I have a daughter, the younger one, that I went to her open day one day, 4 years ago, she was maybe 7. And one of the subjects, I know she's not academically inclined. I saw that she got 10-10. I said, Ebenezer, how come you got 10-10? And we were so open. She was like, Daddy, don't mind. Is that my teacher? He's the one that wrote all the answers for me. And I just laughed. But some parents will be like, 10-10, I'm so proud of you. And, I know that she's not a 10-10 person in academics, I know that she's musically inclined and, I'll help her in that area. So be open-minded, have a custom template. Your child can finish GSS3 and be the one that will start the next Facebook. You now realize how to groom and, give him or her the right mentors. And the world will be better for that.
This has been so interesting and enlightening for me too. Because if we decided to go to all the facets or the expressions, yes, that's the word, the expressions of Seun would leave here, is majorly a writer. Is, well, like he said, is into photography, but he has his, and then now he's an agbegilodo. That's what I call him. Thank you so much, and thank you for going through that traffic to be here. Appreciate it, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you.
So, to get Wallace books on Robin Heights?
Yeah, yes. Robin Heights is available at on Book Nook also, which is in Lekki, and Quintessence Limited. And for those abroad, is on
Amazon.
On Amazon. And the thing with Amazon is all different countries. Someone has contacted us from Malaysia, and they ordered from them, Australia too.
So just order online, and if it's on Kindle, please do that. So, because I've not read the remaining ones, but I have read From Prison to Photography, and trust me, you will enjoy it because it is indeed an intriguing story. It's a economical, spiritual, everything story, and he is, if you think he was funny on this podcast, no, he's, like I said, he reads more interesting than he's talking like what would I say that they do not catch it, but on paper he's so different. Thank you so much. Of course, Living Mindfully you can get on Amazon, and you can also get on Robin Heights. Just follow the link. I would add the link to getting From Prison to Photography onto the description of the show. Love yourself, love your neighbor, love your country. Well, if you're Nigerian, love Nigeria. Above all of this, love God. He is the essence of your being. Until next time, please stay curious. I am Oluwatumise Oladako Kuku.
Thank you so much.